And we are live on our Facebook page and I think our web page today. So, and our YouTube channel. So, um, welcome to Willard Library. This is Family History Month, and we've done a couple programs this month, but I have thought that I saw this program from Mr. Drinkwater on another YouTube page, and I thought, "Oh, I'm going to talk to him about Find a Grave." So Find a Grave is one of my favorite sites, web pages, to find information about family. And if you're watching and you do a lot of genealogy, I think Ancestry will connect a lot to Find a Grave. And I've been able to find some really good information with different projects I've worked on. So I thought this would be a good time to have somebody talk about Find a Grave for us. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Drinkwater, and he's going to show us. Do you show us the web page?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep. Well, yeah. So we'll talk just a little bit about what I do and what Find a Grave is, and then we'll just do a demo. Basically, we'll just walk through some of the sites. So.
Cool.
We ready to? Should we start now?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Peter Drinkwater. I'm a product manager for Ancestry.com, and for Ancestry, I guess they dropped the .com from their name. So for Ancestry, and I work specifically on the Find a Grave product. So we have a team here of developers and support people and QA people who our job is just to work on Find a Grave. So we talk to Find a Grave users and we figure out what they need and try to make the site better for them. And so today I'd like to just talk a little bit about what Find a Grave is. Maybe we'll start with two extremes. We'll start with what it is for those of you who may not be familiar with it, and then we'll talk about some of the newest things we've added for those of you who do know the site a little bit, and then we'll just jump into sort of walking through some of the features of the site and how you can use it. So Find a Grave started in about 1995, which as websites go is pretty ancient. There was a man named Jim who was interested in famous people's graves. He would go visit their graves and he would take pictures and things like that. And he started the site to put up the things that he had. So he would put up information about these famous graves that he would visit. And other people would send him information about ones they'd visited. And they would even mail him photos and he would scan them and put them up. Right. This is before he had a lot of this photo sharing on the internet and all these kind of things. So he built the site and started sharing famous people's graves. Well, after a little while, of course, people wanted to be able to put up their family members. They wanted to be able to not just use famous. So the site sort of went through a period where it was mostly famous and then a little bit of non-famous people. You could put up your own family. And then soon the non-famous part surpassed the famous part, obviously, because there are a lot more of us who aren't famous than those who are. So, so over the past 25 years, the biggest thing about Find a Grave is that there's become this community of people who work together. Find a Grave is all, user submitted content. So the way that we get information on the site is that people who use the site go out to their local cemetery and take photos, or they might add information about someone that they know. They might include, create a memorial. We call each page about a person a memorial. And so they might create that memorial for someone that they know or that they have information about, and then request someone else in the community to go and take a photo. Or they might, go to the local cemetery and get the database of that cemetery's, interments, and then just put the whole database up on the site. So data comes from a lot of different places on the site, but all of it's user contributed. And then once it's out there, other members of the community can pitch in. So for example, there's a local cemetery by me that I've gone out and taken photos, and all the information I have about those people is what's on the tombstone. So it might say their name and it might say their birth date and their death date, but nothing really else. But someone else will come along and they'll send a suggestion in that says, hey, here's where they were born. So we'll add the birth date or birthplace, or they might say, here's where they died, or they might say, here's their family members. Let's link some of these people up. So this community really can build something that's pretty tremendous. I think as you think about the positive uses of the internet, this is really one of the greatest examples where someone with an interesting hobby started something, and then over the course of 25 years, millions of people have come and either contributed or benefited from the work that everyone else is doing together. So for those of us who work on the site, our main job is just to figure out what the community needs to be successful and try to provide that. And so that's where we came from. And then a couple of things that we've been working on lately, just for those of you who maybe are been around the site a little bit. We've recently updated the cemetery page on the site to make it a little more usable, and we'll look at that and show it. Also, we've added on the side of the, we've always sort of told you that there might be some records on Ancestry that are about this person, but now we've been able to use some of Ancestry's hinting services, so that now when you're looking at a Find a Grave page, we can say, here's a census record that we think is for the same person, or here's a burial record, or a death record, or whatever it might be. So we do some better Ancestry connections there, so you can easily get to those records. And then we'll talk about this a little bit more, but as I mentioned, when you sign up for the site, you can choose if you want to be a photo volunteer or not. You can offer to your services to take pictures at your local cemetery. And in the past, we just kind of did that in a general way. You'd tell us where you were, and we would say, well, within 20 miles of that, we'll send you notices. Now you can go to a specific cemetery and say, I'd like to volunteer at this cemetery or that cemetery. So we've made some of those changes. Those are some of the most recent ones. So maybe the way to start out is just to talk about how, I'll share my screen here real fast, and you can see. Yeah, maybe the first thing to do is just to start off by talking about how you could get started. So here you can see that I'm signed into this. I'm not signed in. I'm just on the site. I'm not signed in at all. And Find a Grave is a free website. There's no charge for using the site. And so you can register for free. All you do is just give us your name and email address and set up a password, and then you can have an account. But you don't really need an account to search. And so I'll do the first part of this demo just without being signed in, so you can see what that's like. And then we'll see where it would come up against the opportunity or the necessity to sign in. So maybe the first thing to do if you're new to Find a Grave, if you haven't been out before, is just to come to the site and try a search and see if we have something that's interesting to you. So take, for example, just here on the main page, you can see that you can just search here. So we'll put in a name. We'll say Charles. Oh, I got to do it down here. Sorry, I got two screens going. Charles. And the last name is, let's see, where did he go? Barnett. And I can just search. So you'll see here that we've got like 1,509 matching records for Charles Barnett. So that's probably more than you want to look through. So you can refine your search by clicking this button, or you could do this from the homepage as well. And you could say, well, I know that he died about 1900. I'm not sure exactly when, but let's say it was within 5 years, plus or minus 5 years of 1900. And we can try searching that. Still, we have 49 matches. So if we want to refine again, you can scroll through these. And let me just say that, so here on the search result page, you can see the name of the person. You can see the dates for their birth and death if we have them. You can see here we don't have a day, but we have the year. And then over here you can see what cemetery they're in. And then here in some cases, we'll have plot information for that person. So as you go through, so that's how the search results are organized. Now, sometimes you'll see this little flower icon. That means that someone has left a flower for this Charles Bennett. You might also see a golden star, and that means that that person is famous. We still do have that famous versus non-famous sort of set. And so if they've been marked as famous, they'll have a yellow star next to them. But let's add one more piece of refinement here. Let's give them a cemetery. A location. So as with the locations on the site, as you start to type, we'll start to fill in locations that we have. So this person's buried in Eureka, which I once did a road trip and I drove through 3 different towns called Eureka in 3 different states. So that's not helping too much. But in this case, we know that this guy is in Eureka, Utah. So now if we hit search, there he is. This is the Charles Bennett that we were looking for. So those are just some simple things that you can do to search, and I'll show you some more complicated searches. I went on a little trip, I guess it's been a few months now, down to Eureka and looked at their old cemetery there and took some pictures. And Charles Barnett was down there. But another person that I found down there that was kind of fun was a guy whose name was S.A. Baum, also in Eureka. That one will say search. There he is, Stephen Adam Baum. And yeah, so I went and took this picture of his gravesite because I thought that was pretty nice. Now it is written in stone. His name is Adam Baum. Anyway, so yeah, so you can use that search, and you'll notice it on that most recent search there. You don't have to put in a full name. I just did the S and the A and then Baum, and then it filled it looks for anything that starts. So there's Sally, there's Samuel, there's Sarah. So it'll help you with that search. Let me show you a couple of other search options that we have on the homepage. So you can add name, you can add middle name, you can add years, or you can add the cemetery location. But if you click this more search options, it'll open a whole nother set of things that you can search. So if you do Mary Fulton, if we did that search, we'd get a bunch of results. But if I know, for example, that her maiden name was Smith, I can just click this maiden name option here, and then I just add Smith as in the last name field as well. Another thing that you can do is here you'll notice that it says spouse, children, spouse, parent, child, or sibling name. So if people have made connections on the site, you can search for someone by including a family member's name. So in this case, we'll add Merle, and then we'll do that search. So you'll notice that we searched then for Mary Fulton with also the name Smith. In this case, it's her maiden name, which you can see here because it's italicized. And then it's linked to someone named Merle. And you can see that we list here where the Merle came from. So she has a child whose name was Merle Douglas Fulton and a spouse whose name was Merle Harter Fulton. So those advanced search options are pretty nice. You can see there are a few others. You can narrow it to just famous people if you wanted to do that. You can narrow it to memorials that are sponsored. So Find a Grave is ad supported. You've probably noticed that. You've got these ads at the bottom and you've got them on other pages. So because the site is free, the way that we pay for it is through advertising. So if you'd like to remove the ads from the memorial of someone that you know, there's like a $5 fee that will take all the ads off that. So that's what sponsored means. And then there won't be ads on that anymore. You can search for people who are not buried in a cemetery. So for example, if someone was cremated or lost at sea, you can create a memorial for someone that way. And this way you could narrow it to just people who are there. And then a cenotaph, is a place where we have a marker for someone, but they're not actually buried there. So you can search just for those. Over here, you can search by nickname. We tried the maiden name or their titles. You can look for exact spelling or similar name spelling. I'll show you an example of that in just a bit. You can also search for some of these other ones where they don't have a grave photo. So for example, if you're at your local cemetery and you want to look for memorials that still need a photo, you could come in and say, so you can just say, okay, no grave photo, and we want to do this in Battle Creek, Michigan. And then we just search. This will just list all the memorials in Battle Creek, Michigan that don't have where we have a memorial but no photo. So you could do it by cemetery too. That'd be more helpful probably. I'll show you that in just a bit. So you could say I only want to look for ones that do have a grave photo. GPS. This is the global positioning system that allows you to mark exactly where something is, so you can walk straight to it. We'll look more at that, but you can search by having that or not having that. You can see search for ones where people have added flowers and ones where people have added plot information. So a lot of different searches, but I think as you're getting started, just go in and plug in a name that you're interested in. If you know some dates for them, even a range of dates, put that in, and that will help narrow. If you know perhaps where they're buried, you could put that in, and you can search. Let's just say we're doing, John James, and we want to do this. You can search in a broader. You don't have to search, You can search all of the state of Michigan. So, if you knew someone, that gets you 100 matches. But if you have an unusual name like Drinkwater, then you may not need to narrow quite as much. If you have a really common name, you'll need to narrow a little bit more. So, yeah, first thing, if you haven't been to the site, just go out and do a search and see what we have out there. Now, you'll notice again that I haven't signed in yet. I'm still, you can't maybe see that because of the Willard Library note. But over here on the right, it tells me that I'm not signed in. But I can still search. I can do all these things. I can use the site pretty thoroughly without having to sign in. Let me show you a few of these advanced, a couple of these other advanced searches. So if I wanted to do a search for someone, let's say I did Rolf. I can do a couple things. I can say I want to do similar name spellings, and then this will search and return some other options, right? So we'll have to scroll a little to see some of them. Let's see if we can get down to one. Oh, here we go. Here's Christensen with an O-N instead of an E-N. So that similar name spelling gives you a little bit of variety in the name. You could also use, let's just try Rolf. We'll take the Rolf out for this one. You can use standard Boolean operators. So you can say Christy, let's see, Christ. And then you can put a question mark, and that will fill in either 0 or up to many characters. So if I don't know if it was spelled Christian, I-A-N, or just Christensen, right, E-N, then I can put that in there, and then that will return matches for Christiansen, but also Christensen, and anyway, Christensen. It'll give me all those different choices. And then if you wanted to refine that a different way, you could also take that one out. You can put in the question mark, and that just replaces one character. So if you do that search, it will just give you Christensen's with an A-N and Christensen's with an O-N, Christensen's with E-N's. There's an E-N and there's an, we'll get down anyway. So you probably use those operators in some other things, so you can use those in your name searches as well. Another thing that you can do is if you want to just search by a cemetery. So that's a good first step. It's just to see what we have. If you want to go to the cemeteries tab, you can see what cemeteries we have in your area, and you can see what's available there. So for example, if I do a search, you can search either by name or by location. So if I just put in Battle Creek, Michigan, that you'll notice that once I put it in, before I hit search, this map that's down here updates, and it starts to show me the cemeteries that are in that area that I've entered. It will start with your location if it knows that. Sometimes it can tell from your browser, or if you've given us a location because you want to be a photo volunteer for a certain area, then we'll have that location. But if it can, it'll use your location. If not, it'll just go there. But once you type in just, once you type in just the location up here, it'll update this map and show you what's there. On this map, you'll notice there's a little key here. If it's orange, I don't have any examples of those just now. These are all, oh, there's one. So if it's orange, that means we have a cemetery in that location, but there aren't any open photo requests. No one's requested a photo for that. If it's green, that means we have a cemetery in that location and there is at least one photo request. These little numbers just mean that there's more than one cemetery underneath there, so we can keep clicking down. It will zoom in and then it will show us what those cemeteries are. And then sometimes you'll see one that has this dotted line like this one shows in the key down there. What that means is that someone's placed a cemetery there, but they haven't given us enough information to know its precise location. So our confidence about its exact location is low. So if you see one of those and you know that cemetery, you could come in and send us an email and we can update that to get more detail. So that's a pretty good way just to kind of see what kind of cemeteries we have in your area. We have some people who, when they're traveling, they like to go and they'll just see what's in the area and go visit a cemetery. This is a pretty good way to do it. Or just for your local area, you can see what you've got. Another option that you have here is to search by name. So you guys have a little cemetery out there, that Oak Hill. It's not little, I guess, but I search, then this will show me a list of cemeteries. And actually, I guess I could show you. Let's take out, let me go back. I guess we should try this first. So you can also just hit search here, and then that will show you a list of the cemeteries. In the cemetery list, you'll see how many requests there are in that cemetery, how many memorials we have for that cemetery, and what percentage of those memorials are photographed. We don't know how many burials are in any given cemetery. We only know how many we have in that cemetery. So again, this is all user contributed. So in some cases, a cemetery is really well documented. Someone's gone and done a lot of them. In other cases, they've just gone and done their own family or just a few that they want to do. So the number that we can show you here is not the number of memorial or of burials that are in the cemetery. It's just the number of memorials we have for that cemetery. And of those, how many are photographed. So you can see those there. And then let's go back. We'll go to this Oak Hill cemetery. So here in the Oak Hill Cemetery, you've got 28,409 memorials, of which 77% are photographed, and there are 215 open photo requests. So if I click on that, it will open the cemeteries page. So this is the page that we have that tells us a little bit about the cemetery. You'll see that it gives you the name here. It's got a cover photo, beautiful entryway to your cemetery there. And then you can search just within that cemetery. It has the same advanced features, or you can just use the basic search there. And then it has some other things. You can share this cemetery with other people. If you're collaborating with someone and you want to share it, you can add it as a favorite cemetery, and that will make it a little easier for you to get back to. You can volunteer at this cemetery. This is what we talked about being a photo volunteer. So that just says to other people in the community, I'm willing to go and take a picture at this cemetery. And so if someone sends in a photo request, we'll send you an email that says, hey, there's a new photo request at the Battle Creek Cemetery. And you can go over and take that picture for them. There are other cemetery photos for this cemetery. You can click those and see them here to sort of scroll through the cemetery's photos. There's a map of the cemetery someone's added. Then down here, you can see there are those open photo requests. If I click on that link right there, it'll show me the requests that have been made. So you can see all the people whose photos have been requested. And over here, you can report it if there's a problem with it. You know, if you've been out and it's not really in that cemetery. Maybe someone guessed that it was there, but they weren't right. So you can report that. Or you can claim this request. That allows you to say, I'm going to go take this picture. It may not be important in your area because maybe there aren't a lot of volunteers in your area, but if there are a lot of volunteers in an area, it saves some time. If someone says, hey, I'm going out to the cemetery, I'll take that picture, and then someone else in the area doesn't have to do it. And then when you've claimed it, you can fulfill it. And I'll show you an example of that in just a bit. Let's see. Then you can see some of the information about the cemetery. Direction, you can get directions. If you click that, it'll open a Google map and sort of give you directions to it. You can see the address, you can see the ID that we have for it. This little piece just sort of tells you how complete the information about it is. So you can see that we show that we have this 228,000 memorials, of which 77 are photographed. That's that sort of orangish, brownish bar. And then only 2% of them have GPS. So GPS is a pretty valuable thing in this, and I'll show you an example of how it can be useful when we get down here. But it's also something that's a little bit newer. Because Find a Grave has been around for so long, we have a lot of users who have been adding photos to the site for a lot of years, but that was before your phone camera. You had your phone camera, which has GPS enabled in it. So the reason that we put this there is so in a lot of cases, people will think, oh, well, we've got 28,000 memorials. There's nothing for me to add. But this, you can see, oh, okay, they still need some photographs. And wow, they need a lot of GPS coordinates. So I'll show you about how you can add those too. And I'll show you why they're valuable. Here you've got this opportunity. You can click this and it'll take you to the list of all the memorials there. You can see them sorted alphabetically, but you can sort them in different ways to see what you've got in your cemetery. You can view just the famous ones. So you can see the famous people who are buried in your local cemetery. You can see recent ones that have been added recently. You can add a new memorial to the cemetery, and you can upload headstone photos. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but that would be the case where you want to add some data to the cemetery just by taking a bunch of photos and then transcribing them later. Now, some of these things you'll have to be signed in to do. So for example, if you click this add memorial, it's going to say, oh, you've got to sign in. Anytime you're going to add something to the site, we need you to be signed in because you're responsible you're the owner and manager of that data that you add. And so you'll just sign in. Again, if you want to create an account, it's pretty easy. It just lets you give us a name and give us your password. If you want your public name, you can make that something that you don't need to be, and then you can just create an account there. I already have an account, so I'll just sign in. But again, it's free. The site's free always to use, and then here you could add a memorial. We'll do that in just a little bit, so I'll hold off for that for now. Down below that, you can see some other cemeteries that are nearby. So maybe you're looking for a particular person and you searched in this cemetery and didn't find them. This might help you find them if they were buried in a cemetery that's nearby, but they weren't in that particular cemetery. All right, let's see. What do we want to go to next? Talked about those things. Okay, well, let's do a search. So we'll just search within here. We'll say We're going to do a search for Jones. And we're going to, in this case, I want to look for ones that have no grave photo. So I can do that search. Now this is, again, searching just in the Oak Hill Cemetery, sorry, for people with the name Jones that don't have any grave photos. So then I list them, and then I can say, oh, that's the one. I want to go find this one and go take this picture and add that to the site. Then if I come back and I add, let me see, I can refine the search. I had the first name, just an L. Then I can see, okay, we've got Lillian Jones. So Lillian's got a photo. There's a photo of her, but she doesn't have a grave photo. So someone's added that photo, but they haven't added a grave photo. So she still needs a grave photo to be added. Let's go back and we'll look at what a memorial looks like. Oh, I didn't want to go that far back. We'll just click this button here. It'll take me back to the cemetery. And then if I click on famous people in the cemetery, I noticed that Sojourner Truth is buried in the Oak Hill Cemetery. So we'll click on Sojourner Truth. So this is the memorial page. And so I'll just walk a little bit through what's on the memorial page. Here you can see that star that we talked about where she's marked as famous. So as you go through at the top, you'll see the information about her name and information. In this case, they have an original name for her, birth name, and then when she was born, although I guess there's a little bit of confusion about Sojourner about exactly when she was born, and then where she was born, where she died, where she's buried, and some other details there. Here you can do a couple things. You can share this, like we talked about with the grave. There are a couple different ways you can share, or you can save it to something. So the save to is pretty useful. The first option here is Ancestry. So if you're an Ancestry subscriber and you have a tree there, you can click that Ancestry and it will let you choose what tree you want to add it to. And you can start typing a name. I don't have her in my tree, but I could type in something else. And can't type. I can click that and it will add this to someone in my tree. You can also, the Save To menu also lets you add it to a virtual cemetery. So you can kind of think of a virtual cemetery as like a filing system. So for example, my father's family, the Drinkwaters, are buried in lots of different places. A lot of them are in Maine, and then my grandpa moved to Massachusetts briefly, and then to Yakima, Washington, right, to the opposite coast. And so I can go and find all my Drinkwater ancestors, no matter where they're buried, and put them into a virtual cemetery. So they're all combined, and then I can easily find those people that I'm interested in. Yeah, so think of it as like saving or organizing some people. We have people who use them to, create a virtual cemetery for people who fought in a particular unit in World War II, or people who were in a high school class, or people who were whatever group you might want to use it for. You can collect people into a virtual cemetery there, kind of like a filing system. You can copy it to your clipboard. So if you wanted to put this information into a family history program, or if you wanted to save it, put it into a Word document or something like that where you could save it, you just click that and it will copy it. Or you can click print and that will allow you to just print out a copy. When you do print, it'll strip out some of the stuff. There won't be there aren't ads and some of the other graphical elements. It's a simplified version, so it's easier for your printer. You can suggest edits, and we'll look at this, but as we talked about, if I knew, for example, if there was some missing information, if I knew the day that she was born or the month, I could come in here and suggest that. Each memorial has a manager, someone who is responsible to take care of it. It's usually the person who created it, although sometimes that can be transferred back and forth or other things can happen. But so if I suggest an edit, if I go in and say, hey, here's the day that she was born or the month that she was born, and I send that, it will go to the manager of the memorial, and that person can review the information I submitted and decide if they want to add it or not. Down below that, you see there are some other pictures, and if you click on one of these pictures, it'll open the same kind of carousel that we had with the cemetery pictures, and you can go through those and see. Here you'll see, in some cases, again, it just depends on what people have added, but you can add a bio for the person. We'll give some details. You can type up the inscription of other information that's on the memorial that's there. And then here are the links to the family members down where you can see, links to her parents, links to her children. And And over here, you can see there says see more truth memorials. So it takes the last name of the person you're in, and you can say, I want to see more people with that same last name who are buried in the Oak Hill Cemetery. In this case, you see that her daughter is also buried in the Oak Hill Cemetery. So if you have family members where a bunch of them are buried in the same location, you can just click that link and it will show you all the others. You can also go a little more broadly. So you can say, okay, are there other people in this family who are buried somewhere else in Battle Creek, or are there other people in Calhoun County, or other people in Michigan? So you can just it helps you see if there are other locally buried people with the same last name. And then down here, you'll see the flowers that people have added. And you can just add it. You can leave a flower. You just click that button and it lets you choose a flower, or you can even upload your own flowers and add your own images and use them as flowers. You can choose flowers, or there are, holiday ones if you wanted to leave a Christmas flower, or you wanted to, if you like animals, whatever. So there are a lot of different flower types, and again, you can see these ones, someone's uploaded their own image. This one right here, especially, someone's uploaded their own image. One thing that you may have noticed, I don't know because it's a little bit covered here, but up in the upper right corner, when I signed in, I get some new information here of things that are there for me to do, and we'll talk about some of those later. Let's see. I think we've covered the memorial stuff we were going to do. Yeah. So we're all signed in. So the next thing, so from the homepage or from wherever, you'll notice that there's this famous tab, and you can go here to see famous people. You can see who was born and who died on this date. You can look at yearly necrologies, people who died in the same year. You can look at some other things there. Or here's a contribute tab where it shows you some ways that you can contribute. So as we mentioned, everything on Find a Grave is user contributed. So there's sort of two sides of Find a Grave. There's the side where you come and search and find stuff that you're interested in, and there's the side where people come and they contribute and participate in the community. And so this contribute tab lets you see some of those ways you can do that. So you can add memorials to the site. You can upload photos from your local cemetery. You can transcribe photos that have been uploaded. We'll look at some of those things. You can see what photo requests are out there in your area. You can suggest edits, or in this case, this is telling me that someone has suggested an edit for me that I can go and look at and process. Or you can upload a spreadsheet. As I mentioned, in some cases, people will go to the local cemetery and they'll get their registry and they'll just put it up on a spreadsheet and then just upload the whole spreadsheet to add those to the site. So let's just look at creating a memorial. So the first thing that you do when you're going to create a memorial is you type in the cemetery name. Yesterday, some of us from the team went out to a local cemetery and just took pictures. And while I was there, I grabbed a couple that I could use in this demo. So go to this American Fork Cemetery. And then I can just enter the information that I have for this person. So if I knew, for example, someone named Lindsay Milne, and she was born on the 3rd. Oh, I'm in the wrong. I need to come down here. 3rd of August, 1909. She died on the 7th of August, 1990. So just with that information, I can create a memorial for her. And there you go. It's been created. And now, if I want to, there are some things I can do. I can add a photo for it. I can request someone else add a photo. So when I first started using Find a Grave, the first thing I did was I went out and I created memorials for my grandparents who were buried up in Yakima, Washington. And then I requested a photo. And it doesn't always work this way. So I'm not trying to get anyone's hopes up. But within a few days, there was a woman up there in Yakima who'd gone and taken pictures of my grandparents' graves and uploaded them to the site. So, in some areas we have really active members of the community, and in some areas we don't. But for me, I was lucky that way. So I could request it. In this case, I know I have a photo, so I'll just add a photo, and I can select it, or I can drag them over there too. Let me go to the desktop and say Willard Library, and this is for. So that'll upload. And here I can add a caption to it if it needed some explanation, or I could change the type. So in this case, it is a grave photo, but if I was uploading a person photo or a family photo, I could choose that type. So there it is. That's the photo that I took yesterday of the Milnes. Now, now if I look at this and I can view the original to see a little bigger version, you'll see that I can see from here that he has a middle name, Lindsay David. And so I can go back. Let me go back to this one. Oh, let's see. You probably didn't see that, did you? Because I was sharing just this one tab. So, but when I zoom in, I can see that it's Lindsay David. So if I close this overlay and I can then go and I click edit, and I can just add his middle name in there. And that'll be good. Where did my cursor go? There it is. Save changes. So now we've got that Lindsay David Milne, which information came from that gravestone that I uploaded. So again, you can create a memorial from a gravestone. You can create it from information that you have. You can create it from records that you might have or something else like that. And once you've created it, then either you can add a photo or you can go and hang on. Let me go back up here. Where did my cursor go? There it is. Yeah, once you've done that, you can go and add those photos. Now, once someone's requested a photo, you can see that up here where this little camera icon is. This is for photo requests in your area. So let me go, let's see. Let me do what's the best way? Yeah, I'll just look in here. So these are some photo requests in my local area that you can just see what's been out there. These are areas that I've signed up to be a photo volunteer in, or I can also see ones that I've claimed. So if I've seen some that I think, oh yeah, I can do that one, then I can claim them and then I can come and see them here. Here's one for Richard Miller that's in that American Fork Cemetery. So we'll click here. So you can see when you get to the site, if you did a search and got here, you could see it too, but you'll see this little thing that says, there's been a photo requested. And I say, I want to fulfill that photo request. So I say fulfill, and I select a photo and I say open. And that one's done. Now in this case, I don't manage this memorial. So instead of a suggest edits button, instead of an edit button, I have this suggest edits button. So if I click suggest edits, I can just come in here and say Larry. I can add that as his name. And then I can also notice there's an inscription on there that says loving son, I guess it's capitalized, brother and father. I can save that. So now I've fulfilled that photo request and I've added a little bit of additional information that the manager of that memorial can choose whether or not to update on the site. So that's how photo requests work. And if you, I guess we could try requesting, well, we'll do that in just a second. Another way to add info, one thing I was going to note is, we share the index that we have with Ancestry and also with Family Search. So when you create information or add information to the site, it's searchable on Ancestry. It's also searchable on Family Search. So people will be able to find it there and then come over and see it here on Find a Grave. Also, the site is pretty good with search engines. So if you just do a Google search, a lot of times a result from Find a Grave will come up pretty well. Another way to add information to the site is just to go out to your local cemetery and take photos of all the gravestones that you see, and then upload them for transcription. I'm going to do this on a fake site because I don't have a bunch of photos from a real cemetery that I can test with. But we'll go to this Find a Grave test cemetery, and that should get us there. So if I went out to this cemetery and I took a bunch of photos, then I can come to the cemetery's page and click upload headstone photos, and it will let me select. And if I save for transcription, I can choose one or I can choose several, and I can open those, and then we'll upload those photos. Once those photos are uploaded, they go into a queue. They go into a list of places that I can where I can go and transcribe them. And I'll show you how that works. For the first 7 days that they're in that queue, I'm the only one who can do that transcription. After 7 days, oh, am I in the wrong window?
Yeah, I think your screen hasn't moved.
You know what I did is I'm sorry, I went to a different tab. Let me go back and do this again.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yep. So if I go to find a grave, Test Cemetery in Lehigh, search. Say this. So what I did, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I was sharing a different tab. So you can see there are 3, now I've uploaded them already, but I'll just show you what you do again. So you click that upload headstone photos, you select the photos you want to do, select them all and click open. I won't do it because I just did these ones, but that'll upload those to the site. And once they're in there, they'll be in a queue that only you can transcribe. That's what this little icon right here means, is these are photos that are ready for me to transcribe. You'll see that it also showed them here on the cemeteries page. But if I click on one of those, it'll open that up and show me some of the ones. So this is that same Milne one that I uploaded earlier because his wife is also listed here. So to transcribe them, you just zoom in a little bit so you can see it well, and you say Isla. Naomi. And then I can say that she died born on the 6th day of December 1909. She died on the 15th. Oh, 15th February 1994. And I don't see other transcriptions. There are some names on there, but I can leave those. Now, if there were multiple people on here, I could click add an additional person. So in this case, we've already put her husband up. But if we hadn't, we could click add an additional person, and that will they'll put her up here and then let me type in another person, and then we can go. And then once we've done that, we just say add transcription. And that photo's been transcribed. So now that will create a memorial for her and add that photo straight to it. And then we can go on to the next one. So here's another one that we could do. I won't do more, but you can see where if you just went out to your local cemetery, took a lot of photos, and then they showed up in your transcription queue, you can transcribe them pretty quickly and put them up quickly. That's a pretty good way to go if your local cemetery doesn't have a lot of memorials in it. One tip I would say is that if you go to one where there are a fair number of memorials, you can still take all those pictures, but then come in, if you type the last name, Milne, and we say, okay, we'll say Isla Naomi. You'll notice this is suggesting some that are already there. So if I select this one, what it will do is it'll add my photo to that memorial rather than creating a new one. Now, one reason that you might do that is, you remember that in the Battle Creek, in the Oak Hill Cemetery there in Battle Creek, very few of the memorials had GPS coordinates. So if you go out and take the photos with your phone on your camera, and it adds the GPS coordinates to that photo, if you come in and add that new photo to the existing memorial, it will add not only the photo, but the GPS from the photo. So then we'll have a precise location for that memorial. So that even if your a local cemetery has a lot of memorials in it, you can still just go take all the photos, come in. As you transcribe them, start with the last name, choose the person who's already there from the drop down, and then it will just add the photo to the existing memorial. Let's see. So maybe I'll just mention, as far as doing a project, you can, if you go, well, let me skip that. I'm going to come back to that. I want to show you, we have an app for the site. And so I'm going to switch this. I'm going to stop sharing this screen. I'm going to turn this on so it's ready to go. I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to share this one. So hopefully there you can see my phone screen. So you see that here's the Find a Grave app. So if I open that app, and again here I'm not signed in, and I can still search. I can use a lot of these features, but I will sign in. So if you tap sign in, and you can either create an account, or you can use an existing, or you can use your existing account. So once you're signed in, then that homepage changes a little bit, and you'll see that now, in addition to those two search options, we have a list of my memorials, my virtual cemeteries, photos that I've claimed, and photo requests that I've claimed, and then my favorite cemeteries. Down at the bottom, there are some options to contribute or transcribe. The thing about the app that I maybe just want to point out, I guess, in the time that we have, is it's a great companion to take with you into the cemetery. So when you're at the cemetery, the app is really, it doesn't have all the functionality of the website, most of it, but not all of it. But when you're out at the cemetery, it's a great way to go because it can use some of the features of your phone to make life a little easier for you, like your location services and your camera. So if I tap on, so I can do a memorial search here, I can just enter that information, or I can tap on a cemetery search. So if I'm out at the cemetery and I tap cemetery search, it'll open the map. It'll show me some local cemeteries, but you'll notice where it says find a grave test cemetery, it knows that I'm within a certain distance, I'm close to that one. And again, that's a fake cemetery that we created for testing, but it knows I'm there. And if you're out at your local cemetery, it'll know you're there too, and you can just tap on it, and then it'll take you to that cemetery's page. So if you're out there and you want to do a project or you want to get a group of people together, you can all go out to the cemetery, you tap on it. Then my suggestion would be just open this app, tap on the cemetery when you're there, and then go to this search. Well, you can see the requests that are there. So if, for example, I'm out here and I want to go fulfill a photo request, here's this Andrew Richards one, or Richard Andrews one. I can just go up to wherever his memorial is, and I can tap on it, and I can say, all right, I want to fulfill this request. And it'll say, yep, photo request fulfill. I can either take a photo of the cemetery, of the grave, or I can choose a photo that I already have on my camera. In this case, I'll say I'm going to take a photo. So I can point my camera down at the grave, and I'll just take the picture, and it will say, okay, is that it? Do you like it? And I'll say, okay. And I remember this is just a test case, so it's okay that it's not, it's just a picture of the carpet. And I say upload, and it will upload that photo and fulfill that photo request right there. So that's pretty handy. Then you can also, as you go through, let me go back up here. If you click on, so that's just letting me know that the photo has been uploaded. If I click on search memorials, this will just list the memorials in that cemetery. And I can say, all right, I want to look. So sometimes when I go to the cemetery, I'll just go out, I'll go to a gravestone, I'll look at it, I'll see what's the name on that cemetery, on that gravestone. I'll type it in. I'll say Allen, and you can see here from this list a couple things. Over here on this first one, you'll notice that there's that little pin icon with a question mark in it. That means there's no GPS on that memorial. And then the little gravestone icon with a question mark means there's no photograph for that gravestone. You'll notice that in the case of Haley Allen, she's got a photo. She doesn't have She does have GPS. That's why that's there. If you see down here, this Alan Test Ibrahim, he's got a photo but no GPS. So from the app though, you can easily add either of those. So let's say I want to take this Elian Allen. I just swipe. Now this is I'm using the iPhone app. There's also an Android app, and Android uses a little bit different technology. So in that case, you may need to tap it instead of swipe it. But you tap it. The left purple button will drop a pin right here and say this is their GPS location. The green one will take a picture. You don't need to do both. If you take the picture, it will also add the GPS. So let's say I'm going to take a picture to add for this one. And again, I'll just take a picture of something on my desk. I'll say okay. I'll upload it. And once that's there, you'll see that the image has appeared and those two icons have gone away. Now, if I come down here and I wanted to add just the GPS, I just tap this GPS and it says, are you sure? You don't want to tap this if you're not standing right by the grave, right? Because this is going to say wherever I'm standing, that's where this grave is. So if I tap that, I say add, and I tap that, and it's just added GPS. So now we have GPS location. Now you might say, well, what's the benefit of having the GPS location? Let me go back and show you a search. So here, again, it's using the location services to show me cemeteries in my area, but I can add a different one. So if I say Oak Hills Cemetery, and I say I'd like it to be in Battle Creek, Michigan, search. That's the one I want. That's the one. I'm doing something wrong. No results. Oak Hill Cemetery, Battle Creek, Kalamazoo.
Maybe it's Oak Hill.
Oak Hill. Did I put it? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Oh, good. This always happens in the live demo, doesn't it? All right. So if I go to that cemetery, let's just go and look at some of those memorials. So here's this Aaron Clifton Curtis. If I click on that one, if I just go out to the cemetery with the phone, and I click this where he has GPS, you'll notice that from here he has GPS. Some of these others don't, but he does. If I tap that, if I click map it, that will show me, that will open a map and show me a pin on the map where he's located. Now, if I was close, I would show up here as well as a blue dot. So if I'd come to the entry of the cemetery and then I did this, I would see that one and I could start walking and my blue dot would move and it would get closer and closer and closer. So that's really the benefit of the GPS, is that when you're out at the cemetery, if there's GPS added, you can just walk straight to it. And GPS isn't always accurate. You'll find often the case that, someone's added GPS, but that GPS is off sometimes by quite a bit, because it will depend a little bit on the satellite. It'll depend a little bit on any number of factors, but when it's added and when it's right, it can be a real help to help you walk right to it. So that's why we add the GPS. So we're running a little bit low on time. Let me just show you a couple of other things that might help you. Let me stop this screen share and share this window again. So if there's anything that you forget or don't remember, there's always some help file down here where you can click that and put in a search for something that you're interested in, something that you need to find, or that didn't open in the same browser, but that will help you if you click that. You can also, you can send a message to the support team if you say contact. Right here's the contact button. That will open the contact form and you can ask a question. You can get some help that way. We also have message boards. So where people help each other, they talk to each other about the site and help each other out. So there's this forums. Oh, that opens in a new tab as well. But if you click that, there's a forum out there where people can help each other to learn about the site. And then and you can, there are all sorts of other ways that you can do. We do have some, we had some tutorials. I guess we took them down because they got a little bit out of date. So we'll work on some new ones of those. But again, I think the key thing is just to go play with it, try it out. It's free and there's no penalty for trying something. So go give it a shot and see what you can learn. And hopefully there's some information out there that's valuable, and hopefully you can help out and contribute to other people so they can find something too. I'll share maybe just one message that we received from a member about the site. He wrote to us and said, "I recently created a memorial for my wife's uncle. About 1 month later, I received a message from a lady who I didn't know at the time, thanking me for making the memorial. It turns out the memorial was for her dad that she never got to know. She'd been looking for information on her dad and his family all of her life. She's now in her 50s. You can imagine the delight she had in finding not only her dad, but his entire family. We've all been able to send her pictures of her grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins she didn't know existed. We are now in the process of getting to know her as well." And I think that's really the power of Finding Grave. The power is in the people. It's in the community that do the contributing, that help each other out, that provide this tremendous resource where people can come and find information about their family and loved ones, or see a photograph of a memorial that's just too far away to travel. I spoke to a gentleman in Ireland today, and he had an aunt who moved to the States and then died here, and they weren't able to come for the memorial service or anything, but someone had created a memorial for her and uploaded a photo, and so he was able to see her gravestone even though he is too far away to come and see it in person. So we sure love the community here, and it's just such a great opportunity for us. And we hope that if you have any feedback or suggestions for the site, you can always send those to us. You can send them through that contact link, or if it's a feedback about how the site's working or some specific suggestion for improvement, you can send those to feedback@findagrave.com, and we'll look at those. And anyway, appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you about it today, and hopefully something that I said was useful. I don't know if we have questions, Melissa, or if there's anything I can...
I haven't seen any yet, but thank you, because I learned a lot. But I'm one that I love to walk cemeteries, and I claimed some photos from small cemeteries south of town.
Yeah.
So in fact, I even sucked my mom into coming with me a couple times. Well, I'll go help you find them. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
during COVID, we had a lot of people during COVID who were like, hey, cemetery is a safe place to be during a lockdown. So they'd go out and visit the cemetery. So.
Yeah, that's when I did it. But I love that it's user contribution. That's really nice that people are willing to help each other. So
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, learned a lot. Thank you so much for showing.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
And that was fun. So if anyone ever had, if anybody that is watching has questions, feel free to contact the library. I can maybe reach out to Mr. Drinkwater if I need to.
Yeah.
So, and I did get another thank you from a viewer saying it was very interesting and the tips were great. So
good.
That helped a lot.
All right.
So thank you everybody for watching. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to contact the library and we'll do what we can to help out. So have fun. Go search for a grave for somebody and post some pictures.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.